to Princess Gryph Customs, episode 5. Today I'm going to be doing a little bit of sculpt work, as I think some people have been wanting to see more of. So I was kind of holding off to do a bunch at once. What we're going to need to do today is finish this Princess Celestia that we, started by stripping. So I've got to sculpt the mane and tail. And then she should be ready for priming. I also have a commission for a Thunder Lane, and I've already sculpted the nose for it. But since I do have the commission for it, I'm going to be making a batch of 2 more. So I'm going to be sculpting the nose and 2 more heads and showing how that's done. It's a pretty simple sculpt. That's probably what we'll start with. On the back burner, I also have a Mare brushable that I have completed and painted, but I forgot to do her collar. So I'm going to be sculpting the collar for that as well. And since it's already painted and everything, and I don't want to get, sculpt on the nice paint job, I'm going to be using a different base and sculpting it onto this, and then popping it off and putting it on Mare. But before we get started, I just wanted to show some commissions that I've finished up. The cutters that I showed from before, commissioned by Priceless 911. These are now complete. They've got their glossy coat. I've posted them on my DeviantArt. Everything is all together now. Everything's painted and glossed and ready to go. So these guys are going to be ready to ship out. I'm going to be packing these guys up in a bit. I also have a commission for a young Granny Smith. So this one is done. I think she turned out pretty cute. I would be really happy to make another one. I do like the way she comes out. The nice thing about her is I use the Applejack base. And instead of just cutting away all of the mane and tail like I do with most blind bags, I actually cut the tips off of Applejack's ponytails and glued them back on, so it has a better sculpted look than if I were to sculpt it, by hand, just plain. But then I, braided the sculpt, so she has the braided tail and the braided pigtails. So I think she turned out pretty cute overall. She even has like a little bow in the back. But I'm pretty happy with the way she turned out. I kind of wish that the Hasbro Granny Smith figure was a little more versatile. I wish they hadn't given her the walker, because there's very few characters that actually have a walker. So I don't feel like I can do too much with it. But there are elderly ponies that I could work with that mold with, but I just don't get to. Another commission, this is the other half of the commission for the Celestia. The Celestia blind bag is going to be getting shipped with this Luna. So this is my second go at making a blind bag Luna with Show Accurate Hair Season 2 version. I tried doing a little bit, something a little bit different. I took some clear glitter and put it in the mane and tail. I don't know how well you can actually see it. But it's really, really subtle. I don't know how I feel about it. I would have rather have found some silver glitter, but I just had clear glitter on hand, so I tried that. It adds a little bit of depth to the figure, but I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. But overall, I think she turned out very nice. A very enviable piece for this commissioner. I'm very happy about this. This is my first commission for an OC Griffin. So it's kind of a blue-toned Griffin figure. And I think he turned out pretty cool. And I was really, really happy. I've been wanting to do an OC Griffin for a while. And I finally got one. So this is just a simple repaint, but I like him. I like him a lot. I wish there were more people who had Griffin OCs, but it's like less than 1% of the pony population that even has one. So I'm not going to get too hopeful. And this is actually at the bottom of my commission list, but I just ended up getting it done anyway because, what the heck. But this is a Design a Pony Princess Luna with Season 2 hair. It's funny that the designer pony. I'm not crazy about the designer ponies. I got mixed feelings about them, but it's funny that the designer ponies are the way they are, because this actual mold, the way it comes, actually looks more like Princess Cadence than season 1 or 2 Luna. This was another BronyCon commission for a weather pony. So it's got a little helmet, and she's got a little jacket on. This person was actually dressed as a weather pony at the con, which I thought was really cute. So I was happy to make this for her. The OC named Skydive for a customer is this one's actually shipping out to Sweden. I'm surprised. I get a lot of commissions from Sweden. Commission for Cloud Kicker. All I did was just mod the hair, and other than that, she's basically a simple repaint. But I think she turned out pretty cute. It's time to sculpt. So the sculpting material I use is called Milliput. I think it's from a European company, because that's usually the only place I can find it. I buy bulk usually from somebody, this guy on eBay who's a Milliput dealer, basically. Last I bought a bulk of like 2 big boxes from him, maybe a year and a half ago, and I haven't needed it since. I'm just getting to the bottom of it, and we opened a Hobby Lobby here in Bradenton recently. So I went down there and grabbed their 2 boxes that they have there, but I'm gonna have to put in another bulk order probably sometime pretty soon. But basically it's just a 2-part epoxy putty. You might be familiar with it if you do like 40K figures or any other tabletop like gaming figure like that. It's very similar to green stuff, but has a kind of a different texture. You got to get used to working with it. If I wanted to move to using green stuff, like I've heard that you can get it in a bulk, like in a tub or something. I haven't really looked very hard for it. I find it's a little bit easier to use. I haven't used it in a really long time though. But it's a little bit easier to use. It's less sticky. This stuff gets kind of sticky. It's good to have a little bit of lotion, and I just put it on the back of my hand so that I can just dab it and wipe it where I need it. And it helps smooth out the surfaces. Usually when I finish sculpting, I take a little lotion and I smooth out parts that look a little rough. But anyway, what I'm going to do with this bulk is I'm going to go ahead and start with the Thunderlane noses. And you just need a little bit of sculpting material to do this with. And with Milliput, it's really easy with any 2-part epoxy putty because they harden after a couple hours. But the thing is, they'll start hardening within maybe an hour or so, especially if you just leave it, and you're not messing with it. The heat from your hands kind of keeps it malleable for a while. But it will start to harden and get difficult. So you don't want to mix more than you immediately need. It's not like Sculpty where you apply it and then you have to bake it. That's the reason I like using it, is because I don't have to bake it. But some people like using the baked ones anyway. But I just like being able to sculpt it and move on. But yeah, to make the broader male nose, all you have to do is just take a little ball of Milliput or sculpting material and just press it against the nose. And then what I do is I take that little bit of lotion and kind of wipe it on there so that it's easy to smooth it up. Just wipe it up against the edges, and you want it to kind of have a flat, come flat up against the face, so that when you do prime it and when you do paint it, it blends very nicely, and that you can't see you can't really see the difference. And that's the look you're going for. You don't want it to be noticeable. So using the lotion is really helpful in this. I remember when I first started doing the noses like this and working with the Milliput, I didn't use any lotion, so it was just kind of really rough. The edges you could kind of see pretty clearly where it went on. But using a little lotion makes a big difference. I'm told you can also use just a little bit of water, but the lotion's really controllable. Like I said, I just put a little dab on the back of my hand, and it's pretty accessible. Although it does look bad when I'm, sometimes I sit at the computer and I sculpt, because I'll be using reference pictures to sculpt like maintenance stuff. I'll be sitting, crouched in front of my computer with my bottle of lotion. I'm sure that looks kind of suspicious. But my family knows what I'm doing. Hopefully. But yeah, once you get roughly the shape you want, and you want to like make sure the front of the nose is flattened, I kind of like to make it wider at the top of the nose, at like the brow, and narrower at the bottom. Is usually kind of what I go for. But either way, you want it to be kind of flat. And if you just press your finger down on the bridge of the nose, and wipe that way, you'll get a nice even bridge, and it'll be kind of distinct. And that's the way I do it. And then if you put a little bit of lotion on it, and what you're going to want to do is take some kind of needle, some kind of pin, a sewing needle of some sort, and then you can make the indents for the nostrils. And you don't want to do it on the front, you don't want to do it on the top, you want to do it on either side. More like, what an actual horse might look like. And then across the front, I just press in with the needle across the front and do some curved lines on the sides. I try to make them even. I'm not always very good at it, but I try to make them even. And just curve up there so that you just have a nice little indent, and I try to make sure the face isn't too glossy. It's a little tricky sometimes, but you'll eventually get the hang of it. So there you go. You just got a real simple male nose shape. It's a little bit broader. Looks significantly enough different than the your traditional female nose that you got. And then you're ready to harden. It's going to harden in a couple of hours. Probably by the time I'm done with all of my sculpting, it'll have hardened. But that's how you start. You take the next piece and you go at it again. So I didn't know today if I was going to sit down and do my vlog or not. So I'm kind of really pissy about my boyfriend. I was gonna work on. I actually had an old professor, requests, just a short blurb, just a 300, 500 piece, a 500 word piece for a blog, for a website. And if you're interested in that, it's called momsrising.org. It's kind of a political activism site. With kind of a feminist vibe to it. But anyway, she wanted me to write a blurb kind of about the healthcare and how it's affected me as a mother and everything. I'm thinking, well, if I want to get back into writing, this is a good way to get back in the game and get back in the saddle. Just write a real quick little blog, and it's going to get published and it'll be good for me. But I'm the subject material, I'm not even fucking interested in it anymore. He just made me that freaking mad. And she gave me a rough deadline of the 20th, and it's the 18th now, so I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna even write it anymore. I'm just so mad at him. Because it's basically just a literary pity party for him. He's gonna talk about how difficult healthcare is, like how unsympathetic the healthcare system has been to the single white male, who hasn't served in the military, because he wasn't able to get Medicaid until we had the baby, which was a godsend because he needed it really bad. And that's kind of what I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about how the healthcare the expansion with the expansion of healthcare, is that going to continue? Is that going to detrimentally affect his access to Medicaid? Because as it is, the Medicaid coverage isn't very good, and the doctors aren't very good because they're busy all the time and they forget about him. Like, that was the kind of stuff I was going to talk about, but like, I'm just so mad at him I don't even care anymore. I want to write. I really want to write, and I really like to write something that gets published somewhere, even if it is a 500 word blurb. But I'm so mad at him. It's ridiculous. Just the way he treats me sometimes. And I don't even know what to do anymore. Like, I tried to tell him, when he's treating me like shit, I try to get him to realize that he's hurting me. I mean, emotionally, he's hurting me. I try to get him to realize that, but it's like he doesn't listen, and I get so frustrated. It's just like I'm just blind with rage at him. And how frustrated he gets me. He just doesn't listen to anything I say anymore. Nothing I say is important enough. So, anyway, enough about me. I'm sure you guys don't really actually want to hear it. I'm just rambling while I work. But I guess it is my blog, so I guess deal with it. But anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to move on to Celestia here. Now, whenever I'm sculpting, I like to make it so that I have some side projects, just in case I have a little bit of extra sculpt and need something to use it on. So obviously I have, my mares right here is back up, but I also kind of have started on a blind bag ne'er-do-well. So I have part, like this is extra sculpt from one of the last times. So I already know how to make her. I've made her before. So if I have a little bit of extra sculpt, I can just, pop it on her. So I don't want to waste anything. And you can't just, use it and be just like, oh, whatever, and put the extra, somewhere. You actually need to use it all, which can be tricky sometimes. But with Princess Celestia here, we're gonna make a long flat tail and make it kind of wavy and have it come around the front, and then long flat, big hair like she has. So the tail's probably going to be a little bit easier than the head, so I think I'm going to start with that. And I don't know if this is going to be quite enough. I might have to mix more to make it work. But yeah, as you flatten stuff out too, like this, you'll notice with the Milliput it does this. I don't know if it does it with the green stuff. I guess it does it a little bit with the green stuff, but not as much as it does with the Milliput. As you flatten it out, you see it breaks along the edges, like it gets rough. So what you can do is just take a little bit of that lotion and just rub it along the edge to smooth it out. And to keep things smooth, the lotion goes a long way, but after the piece is complete, if you still have rough edges, if you have a Dremel, that's what I use to smooth out the edges, and I might show that if I have the opportunity with any of these. But usually if I have the lotion and if I smooth things out as I go, it's not as much of a problem. But the Dremel, it helps to have a Dremel. And I'm going to need a little bit more sculpting materials. Alright, we're back, and I got enough this time. Ooh, big blob. This is probably going to be a little more than what I need for the tail, but we'll do what we need to do. But anyway, we'll try to make this as quick as I possibly can because my battery is getting low and my battery charger is kind of being a piece of junk. So, yeah. You just try to roll it out to, maybe about a half or a quarter of the width that you want it to be. And then flatten it out like I was doing earlier, fixing up the edges as you go along. And you gotta be careful not to use too much lotion, otherwise it makes it difficult to mold the whole thing. But as I go along, I might want to just start by sculpting it onto the tail itself. With Milliput, it's made for like it's made for sometimes patching up ceramics and stuff. So sometimes, a lot of times, it'll just stick directly to your surface. But if it's a piece like, say, the hat on top of this this weather pony that I made, you're gonna want to pop it off before your customer pops it off, or you pop it off, or it breaks off, and put a little glue under there. But for something like this, where it's kind of going around a piece on it, it should stick all right. So took a little break, and gave it in maybe like an hour or so, an hour or two maybe, and the tail is now, it's still kind of pliable, but it's hard enough that I can work around it or add to it, and I won't mess it up. So that's kind of hard, and that's basically what that's going to look like. I'm probably going to take the Dremel up in here on the bottom side of the tail where it's kind of lumpy and smooth it out, because it's hard to smooth out with my finger. But I'm going to move on to the mane now. And I got a nice big clump of sculpting material to use. Yeah, and I had a little extra sculpting material after I finished the tail, so I went ahead and started and made a one of the little neck pieces for Mare. So I'll show you how I made that in a bit. And then I had a little extra, so I added to this hat for Mare Duel. So always a good idea to have other sculpting projects kind of on the sidelines, so you don't waste epoxy. I have a lot, starting from the end here. Now Celestia's mane is a little bit easy. The mane is a little bit easier because you don't have to attach it to like a tail stub. You can actually just flatten it kind of against the head. So that's what we'll be doing. Anyway. I don't know if I'm gonna kind of pull this a little bit longer. Now, if you see how it kind of sinks, if you want it to sit up a little bit, you gotta have to prop it up on something. So I'll just take my X-Acto knife right here and just kind of prop it up just a little bit, so it's not so floppy, and it'll come out alright. Alright, so that gives you an idea. Now I have all the sculpting material left. And I can work on the mayor's neck piece. And as you can see, this is one I did already. Woo. It's just kind of a little collar with like a poofy thing. Cape for Daring Do. And we're going to prop it up, just like we did with the last one, so that it's got a little shape to it. The nice thing about the cape is it kind of balances this piece, since the tail is pretty much completely cut off. Well, it's completely cut off. Who am I kidding? And the rest of this can go toward working on the hat. I mean, the hat, like, I'll finish it later. But this is just a good thing to use up the rest of the sculpting material, so it doesn't go to waste. Because waste is a terrible thing. It's very expensive to waste. Just add it all together. Yeah, I kind of liked having my Daring Do figure. Or not my Daring Do. I still have plenty of Daring Do. Or Mare Do Well. I like Mare Do Well. This figure is a little involved compared to other figures, but it looks really cool. And it's cool to have. So, kind of sad I sold out of them, but at the same time, I'm also, you know, glad. Like, I don't try to collect any of the blind bags. The only thing I collect is the like store-bought playful ponies. So I have a collection of those. Most, yeah, pretty much every one for G4 except some rarer ones. I collect those, but I don't try to collect any of the blind bags or anything because I use them too much. And I just figure, you know, anything that I make that I really like, I can always make for myself again, as long as I can get the base. So, it's good times. So anyway, it's a little bit of sculpting. I know some people really wanted to see some sculpting in action. So hit me up on eBay, on Facebook, on DeviantArt, I started a Twitter, so check that out too. And just see where it all takes you. I think that's gonna be it for today. I don't feel like really doing much else. I might actually go to sleep at a reasonable hour, who knows. But thank you for tuning in, and enjoy.